Tja, LowRez HD hier, David hinter der Kamera, ich vor der Kamera mit unserem Gast.
Mein Name ist Thomas Lund und wir machen Space Hulk.
Ja, wie ihr es gehört habt. Und wir stellen uns jetzt ein paar Fragen zu Space Hulk und ja, schauen wir mal, was das Spiel überhaupt zu bieten hat, was es ist, weil ich persönlich weiß überhaupt nichts über das Spiel. Von daher, wir wechseln jetzt auch in die englische Sprache. Von daher, so yeah, hello again in English this time. So you will be introducing mainly Space Hulk to us. So could you tell a little bit, because for me, example, I'm completely unfamiliar what it is. I have no idea because I couldn't. Well, I know a little. I know that it's set in the Warhammer universe, and I'm a little bit familiar with the Warhammer universe, but I'm on a very casual level. So could you explain what is the game? What is this? How is it? Does it relate to the rest of the Warhammer universe? And yeah, how does it differ? And what's similar?
Yes, I can try to explain it. Space Hulk, as a story setting, is that you have huge chunks of metal spaceships that get crushed together after space battles. They go into what's called the warp and get mangled up, and once in a while they then drop out of the warp again, and then they have usually infested with gene stealers. They might be 10,000s of years old with lost technology inside, and these are like hundreds of kilometers, big chunks of Raumschrott, German word, yes. And these Terminators that are the Space Marines Terminators, these are the heaviest, the most badass versions of the Space Marine armors. They get sent into the Space Hulk to retrieve the technology, to try to destroy the Space Hulks from the inside, or try to divert them away so that they don't threaten the local space.
Okay, so the main goal of the game is to destroy such chunks of space junk, basically.
Yeah, that could be one way, or they could, if they are not threatening, they could just be a matter of going in and finding some of this lost technology in the Warhammer 40,000 universe and getting out again without getting killed by the gene stealers. So that is the overall storyline around it. And Space Hulk, the computer game and the board game, is then a representation of this. So you can imagine Space Hulk being the haunted house of Warhammer 40,000. So it's very dark, narrow corridors. It's very much like a chess strategy game, where you're moving a small squad of Terminators into unlimited amounts of Gene Stealer territory. So the basic game mechanism is an action point based system where every unit has a certain amount of action points, and you can spend them on turning, on moving, on shooting, on opening doors and things like that. And as you move your Terminator squad through the missions, the Gene Stealer will attack you from all sides. And you will then have, from a Gene Stealer point of view, you have unlimited numbers usually. So for the Terminators, they have to move fast and they have to go for the objective. It's not a game where you like have to kill, where the aim is to kill, but it's a matter of reaching the mission objective, solving this level before you get killed by the Gene Stealers.
Okay, so it sounds very exciting, actually, to be honest. Are there like horror elements in the game? Is it more towards horror, or is it just the gloomy atmosphere that's the most prevalent thing about it? Is more like about the isolation inside this this narrow space.
Yeah, this is a little bit down in the horror kind of direction of this, because the Gene Stealers are really, really powerful when they're up close. So you have to keep them away. You have to protect your flanks with Overwatch fire. And you see these Gene Stealers running down the corridors as fast as they can towards you. And you see the Terminator shooting and shooting and shooting, and he's then jammed. And you just hope that this Gene Stealer doesn't reach you and actually has action points left to claw you to pieces. Because in close combat, their claws will rip you apart.
So how does the game play? How does it reflect the Warhammer or the Space Hulk board game? Is correct board game, or is it more like the Space Hulk board game in terms of the game mechanics and the way the game generally plays?
We decided to sit down and take the board game, the 3rd edition board game that Games Workshop shipped out in 2009 as a limited edition, and we wanted to make the computer game like that. So we really tried to stick to the core rules from the board game. We took the campaign from the board game, all the named units and the weaponry, all these parts are what we are shipping out as a board game, or as a Space Hulk, the computer game right now. So we stick closely to what you have there. You can even have a small log window that shows you the dice rolls if you want to see that. But you can turn it off as well, and then try to play the game through just visually trying to move your units around and then play it. So you basically get the board game, which is impossible to find these days and buy for normal money, as a video game.
So the game even rolls for you, basically. Like, so it's so close that you, yeah. So it even rolls for you.
Yes, but at the same time, we also took it. We took it. If you compare it to something game like XCOM, it's not exactly the same game. But XCOM is more open space. It's more cover based. Then Space Hulk has the same basic mechanics of turn-based strategy game. It has action camera shots. When you're shooting something, you see up-close pictures of gene stealers exploding with heads and blood coming out. So we try to capture some of these same intense moments in full 3D. But the game itself is very, very hard. You will die a lot. You will miss. You have to figure out that this level is, you have to deploy this unit first, and this guy has to have Overwatch down this corridor because that's where the gene stealers usually come. You need to protect your flamer guy because he has to reach the end and flame this control room. So there's a lot of these logic puzzles that you have to solve in a turn-based game. It's really, really cool.
So is the game itself dynamically designed? So are the enemies random? Is the layout random, or is the layout and the enemies are set and you just have to find your best way around the place?
The missions themselves are set. They have been through various iterations in the 1st and 2nd and 3rd edition board game. So the general layout and the mission is set, but the gene stealer has different random spawn points. So every time you play the game, they can come from different directions. And we made the AI so that it has a general interest of the mission objective, but it will try to randomly do different tactics and try to keep you on the edge.
Are the missions themselves connected with each other? Is there like because you mentioned overall story, is there like a coherent big world where you just can that you can explore and then enter whatever mission you like, or is it more like you have to choose your mission on a screen?
It's choose your mission. It's a linear story that drives you through the beginning of entering a Space Hulk. The storyline goes through that you, with pinpoint attacks, try to take out some key locations on the Space Hulk. You want to gas all the gene stealers because there are like hundreds of thousands of gene stealers in here, and you have maybe 20 Terminators at your disposal. So the strategy in the storyline is to gas them. So you have to, in the missions, each mission will have a different piece of the storyline, look different and have different layouts, and you play with different mission objectives for every level. So at the end, come out of the Space Hulk again, hopefully, with the artifacts and with the knowledge that you gained.
So you basically have this campaign tree where you just progress from one point to the other. Yeah, it's very straightforward and very just to the point, because I think the main point is to play the missions in the...
It's structured exactly like the board game, so that you have the same storyline and you have the same missions as that. And that is what we're shipping with, and we are then expanding it with new options and new features. So we're doing right now new Space Marine chapters. this is a Blood Angel campaign, so we're gonna add more Space Wolves, Ultramarines, and so on with campaigns for them. We're gonna expand out with a level editor so that we can enable the community to build their own levels, and also write briefings and mission objectives so that we can have some kind of community going on, creating content for Space Hulk moving forward.
How is it with the modifications? You mentioned the editor where you can edit your own levels. Is it possible to have go beyond that when somebody wants to create a different variation of the game and have a mod, kind of like in the earlier days of PC gaming?
Not for this title. It's a licensed Games Workshop title, so we have to make sure that we stick inside the rules of what Space Hulk is for Games Workshop. But within that framework of Space Hulk, we can ourselves come with new variations of Terminators, weapons, Gene Stealers, and try to see how far we can take the editor so that you can, inside the Space Hulk frame, mod it in an easy way. But it's not a game where you'll be able to exchange the Gene Stealers with yellow fluffy bunnies.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that would be a very interesting version, maybe for a later time, where you use fluffy bunnies to, to fight. And maybe like a Monty Python licensed game, with the.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to still stick to that. This is a 40K title, and it's a licensed, so we have to be able to make sure that it is what Space Hulk is when people play it.
No, it's understandable that it's a set IP, a very a set franchise that you cannot go beyond. It's easier to do it with an original IP, obviously.
Yes.
But I like how you still try to push forward the customization of the game. Like that you could so you could technically customize your own units in the game with the editor when it comes out.
We are even going to build it into the game. When we come with the first chapter pack, you will be able to customize your own squad. You will be able to name them. You can, as you play the game, each unit will earn experience points, whatever you're going to call it, that unlocks different adornments so that you can get some progression going with your Terminator squad.
Okay, you mentioned expansions. Were the expansions kind of planned from the start, or will there be unplanned expansions when the game does well, and you'll say, yeah, we can do more. We can release like a mission pack, or maybe even like a second campaign, a third campaign, as you mentioned. Are those all planned, or will you say we will adjust whenever how the market will tell us?
No, they're already planned. At least the first initial wave now. So we will have a co-op feature with a co-op campaign. We will have a full campaign that is in the works, and we will have the next chapter campaign, which includes those things. Those are already in production right now and have been planned for from the beginning.
Okay, so the game will get a constant supply of content. So if you buy now this version, you'll get expansions later and other packs like mission and new units, etc. Probably one of the most important questions is for people watching: how much will the game cost?
The game is already out.
Or so how much does it cost?
It costs $30, and I don't know what that translates into Steam euros, but I guess it's like something like 25, 26 euros. And with that, you get this base campaign, you get the free level editor that's coming out, and you get the free co-op part. So those are the things that we're going to throw in here for the free part for that base price. And the expansions that we're then working on, the bigger campaign structures and the bigger chapter additions, they're going to be paid expansions that we will come out with throughout the next months.
How big are the expansions themselves? Are they comparable to the main campaign, like in terms of size?
The pure campaign ones, they will be comparably in size, maybe a little bit smaller, so that you will have 8, 9, 10 missions, depending on the size of the individual levels as well. That's the current plan. And then when we come out with the chapters, We will have a chapter-specific campaign that only is playable by this chapter, which is going to be slightly smaller, but on the other hand, it's going to be fit into the lore of that chapter, where the bigger campaigns are playable by all chapters as we move forward.
Okay. Then another question is, like, will you try to reach out towards other Warhammer based franchises, like maybe even with Space Hulk, like kind of bridging some of them, like maybe the Space Marine franchise and the Space Hulk kind of franchise, or will it remain standalone?
Space Hulk as such is a standalone board game. The Space Marine packs and Dawn of War and some of these others are made by other companies, so making some kind of connection is going to be a hard thing. But we definitely want to take Space Hulk into a new direction after now that we launch. So we are going to add more weaponry, we're going to add different rules, and we're going to add variations of things as we move forward. And then we will, past Space Hulk, we will look into more 40k games that we definitely want to do.
Yeah, I meant obviously if you ever get the rights, you know, like to those other franchises, not that you will bridge like to some other developers, obviously. But are you planning like to say maybe like, oh, we will release like we got now the rights for Space Marine, and we can do Space Marine, and say we'll bridge those two games, or like when you get another, like will you bridge those games then together at some point? Are you planning something like this at least?
Not right now. The thing that we do look at now is to look back into more Games Workshop existing things that they have in the back catalog, and going to see if there's a fit there. We haven't decided yet, but what we definitely want to do is take the system that we've been able to create now for Space Hulk and use it in different ways of making more turn-based strategy games in different parts of the Warhammer 40k universe. So that's definitely something we want to do. It's not going to be like Space Hulk copy, just to swap the units, but using a turn-based engine, we can do a lot of things, even open warfare kind of stuff. But which parts is down to negotiations and licensing, and also budgets and planning, all these boring parts of game development.
Yeah. Will the game, like this last like more or less content-based question, will the game feature lots and lots of story and cutscenes, or is it a very straightforward like game, like from what I got, you know, like it's supposed to be like a very straightforward, just you and the game, and that's it?
It's very much down to that this is a board game conversion. So we do have the action cutscenes that happen during combat. We have wrapped the story, and we have voice acting on top of this. But we don't have. We're a small company, so we don't have a huge CGI team to create huge cutscenes in between missions. So what you get is really like it's a board game as a video game.
So you're basically, so you're not watering it down with something like scripted events and anything like that. So it's just it's the game how it was on the how it was like as a board game, and then you can play it basically the same way. So it's like
yes, that's pretty much the package that nobody right now can buy the board game anywhere unless you have like 300 euros on eBay. So we wanted to be able to take the board game and give it to a huge fan base that are unable to buy it, and if they can buy it, finding friends who they can play with. So we did a lot of work to get multiplayer hot seats in there, so that you can share the experience now on the global basis. So that's what the Space Hulk package is.
Yeah, I mean, and the way the game plays also lends itself just to a translation into a video game, and it sounds very exciting what you said. Actually, you know, like the game sounds very old school, very old school PC game style, and I really like those, because there are not that many nowadays. And
I mean, these days it seems like there's a requirement to add a lot of meta layers and more. But like narrowing it down and making a very focused game, and say this is the game experience. This is the core. This is what plays really well. it might not be as elaborate as if you play Mass Effect with tons of layers of different things, but it's very cool, very great game that is very strict to the core, old school.
Sometimes less is more. A lot of times, actually. And I like that you don't try to blow the game like with extra stuff that wouldn't belong into such a game. And it's like it sounds very exciting, and I'll definitely try it now, actually, because I didn't know anything, and you basically kind of convinced me already. The final question would be, what platforms besides Steam do you plan to release it on? Do you plan to have like or did you already release it like on GOG.com, or maybe like drmfree.com, or maybe like retail packaging?
Generally, we want to get this game out into as many people's hands as possible. Right now, that means Steam, Gamersgate, and we're going to sell it off our own website pretty soon, most likely next week. And then we're going to go into trying to get it on GOG as DRM free. We're going to try to see if we can package this up possibly next year in some kind of retail bundle that have a collection of all the DLC that we create in a deluxe box, so that most likely is going to come out. We need a partner for that, so we're still looking for that. We're pushing it out also on tablets later in this year, and looking into digital consoles. So we really want to get it out to everybody to play good old school hardcore strategy game.
Well, that sounds sounds very good, and I'm definitely looking forward to try the game out. And thank you very much for this interview, and thank you for taking your time to explain all those things about the game.
Danke.
Bitteschön.